It is my wife's funeral. The church is draped in lilies, their scent heavy enough to choke the air. People whisper, the sound muffled beneath the organ's slow dirge. I sit in the front pew, my hands clenched around a folded handkerchief that is no longer white. I keep staring at the small gold cross embroidered on its corner. My wife sewed it herself 30 years ago. Ordinary cloth, yet suddenly it feels like the only anchor holding me in place. Then it happens. My daughter, the one I raised through sleepless nights, the one whose school books I carried under pouring rain, turns to me. Her face is cold, her eyes like glass. In front of everyone she screams, "You're nothing to me." The words cut sharper than any blade. Gasps ripple through the mourners, but she doesn't look away. 3 years of silence between us collapse into a single moment of humiliation. The echo lingers in the vaulted ceiling, louder than the hymns. I freeze. My heart, already fragile from an old condition, beats unevenly in my chest. For a second I fear it might stop altogether, but I hold on, staring at the coffin where my wife lies, as if she might still rise to defend me. Yet all I hear is silence, and silence has its own way of speaking. I clutch the handkerchief tighter. My thumb brushes the worn stitching, and suddenly I can almost feel her presence, as if she left me this last thread to hold on to, knowing this day would come. The pain is unbearable, yes, but beneath it a flicker of something else begins to stir. A question, a shadow, a promise. And that was only the beginning. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After the funeral service ends, chairs scrape against the floor as mourners shuffle out. Their faces blur a mix of pity and discomfort. No one dares to meet my eyes for long. Perhaps they fear being caught between me and my daughter. Or perhaps they simply don't know what to say when blood turns against blood. I remain seated. The pew beside me is empty, though it should not be. That seat was once hers, my daughter's, when she was a child. I remember her small hands clutching a hymnal too large for her fingers, her voice off-key yet earnest as she sang with her mother. The absence beside me now feels like a chasm that stretches across decades, wider than any grave. The pastor approaches gently, resting a hand on my shoulder, murmuring something about strength, faith, endurance. I nod without hearing. My gaze remains fixed on that empty seat, as if it might speak back to me. I wonder if betrayal always begins in silence long before the shouting comes. When I finally rise, my knees ache and a dull pain throbs down my leg, the old arthritis reminding me of years spent carrying more than I should have. I use the pew for support. The body weakens with age, yes, but the heart breaks faster. As I walk toward the aisle, I notice my daughter again. She is standing near the exit, laughing softly with her husband. Laughing as though her cruelty moments earlier had been nothing more than a line in a play. The sight makes my chest tighten. I pause. My hand slips into my pocket, fingers brushing against the handkerchief again. The thread, the cross, the faint smell of my wife's perfume still clinging to it all, reminders that I am not entirely alone. But then I catch something, a fleeting glance. My grandson, her boy no more than 10. He looks at me not with disdain, but with uncertainty, almost guilt. His eyes dart from me to his mother, then down to the floor. In that hesitation, I sense there is more to this story than I yet understand. I step outside into the gray afternoon. The air smells of wet soil and dying flowers. A drizzle begins tapping against the stone walkway like whispered accusations. I thought the hardest part of today would be lowering my wife into the earth. I was wrong. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The house is quieter than the church had been. Funerals end with hymns and handshakes, but the home of the bereaved lingers with silence that cannot be swept away. I step inside, the old floorboards creaking under my weight, and the scent of incense still clings to my clothes. Everywhere I look, I see traces of her, my wife, though she is no longer here to fill the space. On the dining table rests a small wooden box, the kind used for sewing threads and needles. My wife always kept her things neat, tucked away in corners no one else cared to check. I open it expecting spools of faded thread or a pair of dull scissors. Instead, my hand brushes against an envelope sealed but brittle with age. I lift it carefully. My heart stumbles when I see the handwriting across the front. Familiar, unmistakable hers. My wife's handwriting, looping yet firm even in her later years when her hands trembled with arthritis. She had written my name on it almost as if she knew I would find it after she was gone. Inside, cushioned in faded tissue, is a ring. Gold, but worn, its edges dulled by time. Not her wedding band that rests with her in the coffin. This is different. A man's ring. And inside the band, faint but still legible, are initials carved by hand. My initials. I sit back stunned. Why would she keep this? I had forgotten it even existed. It was a ring I lost decades ago when times were hard, and I pawned nearly everything to pay for her surgery. I never told the children. My wife cried when I returned home empty-handed, but she never reproached me. Somehow this ring has found its way back into my hands, tucked away like a secret waiting for its time. I noticed something more beneath the tissue, a slip of paper folded tightly. With shaking fingers I unfold it. The words in her handwriting bleed into me. Keep this safe. One day it will protect you. I freeze my breath, catching. Protect me from what? From whom? The words are vague, almost cryptic but deliberate. She must have known something, or someone. The room feels heavier. The walls seem to close in, and I hear the faint tick of the old clock in the hallway, each second louder than the last. I rub the ring between my fingers, trying to recall the day I last saw it, the pain of parting with it, the tears in her eyes. The past and present collide in my chest, but the note lingers with one cruel, undeniable truth. My wife left me more than memories. She left me warnings. I slip the ring onto my finger. It fits as though no time has passed. Silence has its own way of speaking. That night I sit alone at the kitchen table. The envelope lies open before me, the faint imprint of her handwriting glowing under the yellow light. My wife's script was always unmistakable, strong yet graceful, each letter looped with care. She once told me she believed a person's soul showed itself in their handwriting. If that's true, then her soul is still here staring back at me from this faded paper. I trace the letters with my fingertip, almost expecting to feel the warmth of her hand guiding mine. Instead, I feel only the brittle edges, the dryness of ink that has survived where she did not. I think back to when she first wrote me letters in our youth. Long before cell phones, when distance was measured not in miles but in waiting days for an envelope to arrive, her perfume would linger faintly on the paper, and she always signed them the same way. For you always. This one, however, feels different. No perfume, no affectionate sign-off, just instructions as though she knew time had run out. The words echo in my mind. Keep this safe. One day it will protect you. Protect me from what? From whom? The question digs at me like a thorn beneath skin. I can't help but think of my daughter's outburst earlier, her face twisted in anger, her words like poison. You're nothing to me. Could my wife have foreseen that? A knock jolts me from thought, not at the door but at the window. I glance up, startled. It's only a branch brushing against the glass, moved by the wind. Still my pulse quickens. Fear, grief, suspicion, they tangle together inside me. I fold the paper back into the envelope, slipping it into my pocket. Somehow keeping it close feels like keeping her close. My gaze falls to the cupboard near the stove. Inside lies another stack of letters, birthday cards, Christmas notes, recipes she scribbled down, all in that same handwriting. For the first time, it feels less like memory and more like conversation. She is speaking, only I must listen carefully to hear. I sit in silence, the ring heavy on my finger, the note pressing against my chest. My wife left me more than grief. She left me clues. And I begin to realize if her handwriting has returned to guide me tonight, it is because I am about to face something I cannot yet imagine. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The next morning, I wake to a house that feels colder than usual. The curtains shiver from a draft, and I wrap myself in my old cardigan as I shuffle toward the kitchen. The ring glints faintly in the early light, heavy with meaning. I had almost forgotten it existed. Now I cannot take my eyes off it. With my coffee steaming in hand, I unfold the note again. The words are few, but they carry a weight I cannot shake. Keep this safe. One day it will protect you. Protect me from what? The question circles endlessly, but my mind clings to one word that keeps stinging: debt. Not financial debt. I paid every bill I could, often with sweat and sleepless nights. No, this was something deeper. A debt between souls carried quietly. I remember long ago when my wife fell gravely ill, how I pawned the ring to pay for her treatment. She cried when I came home without it, yet she never said a word of blame. Perhaps she retrieved it later in silence, saving it not just as a keepsake but as a shield for me. The thought gnaws at me. What else had she shouldered in silence? What had she hidden so that I might one day be safe? I glance at the family photo on the wall, my wife, myself, and our daughter between us, no more than 8 years old. Her smile then was pure, her hand clutching mine tightly. The memory feels like it belongs to another lifetime. Now she mocks me openly, calls me worthless. Yet perhaps my wife knew all along that this rift would come. I sip the coffee, bitter and grounding. Outside, the wind rattles the windows, carrying with it the faint chime of the old wind bell she hung on the porch. She always said bells chase away evil spirits. I wonder now if she had more in mind than superstition. The silence stretches broken only by the steady tick of the clock on the wall. Each tick feels like a reminder. Time doesn't wait, and neither do secrets. I press the envelope flat against the table, weighing it with the coffee mug. It feels like both an anchor and a burden. The kind of secret that is meant to be kept until the moment it must not. A thought rises unbidden, perhaps that moment is now. But I soon realize that wasn't the worst of it. That evening, I'm invited reluctantly, I can tell, to dinner at my daughter's house. The invitation comes not from her lips but from her husband's, delivered over the phone with a stiff courtesy. Perhaps they fear how it would look if I were left entirely alone after the funeral. Or perhaps there is some other motive. The table is set neatly, too neatly, silver cutlery aligned like soldiers' plates, shining as though never truly used. The food smells rich, but the atmosphere is frigid. I sit at one end of the table, my daughter at the other, her husband beside her, and their boy, my grandson, squirming silently between them. The boy glances at me, then quickly looks down whenever his mother catches him. We eat in silence at first, the clinking of forks against porcelain louder than conversation. Finally, she speaks. My daughter sets down her glass of wine and stares at me with that same icy detachment she wore at the funeral. "You never gave us enough," she says suddenly, her voice sharp. "Not money, not stability. Mother did everything. You were just there." The words strike harder than the wine's bitter aroma. I glance at my grandson, who fidgets as though embarrassed by his mother's cruelty. I think of my wife's note, "Keep this safe one day. It will protect you," and wonder if this is what she meant. I could argue. I could remind my daughter of the nights I came home from 3 jobs, hands blistered, bones aching just to put food on the table. I could tell her about the day I pawned my ring to save her mother's life. But I don't. Instead, I fold my napkin slowly, laying it beside my plate. "Your mother never thought I was just there," I say quietly. Her lips tighten. "She pitied you, that's all." Silence stretches again, thicker this time. My son-in-law clears his throat, pretending to check his phone. The boy's fork clatters to the floor, and he bends quickly to pick it up. When he sits back up, he gives me the briefest look, a flicker of sympathy, maybe even warning. I take a sip of water, my hand steady though my heart pounds unevenly. There is danger here, though it wears no mask of knives or fists. This is betrayal, served cold at the dinner table with porcelain and candlelight. I glance at the boy once more. He avoids my gaze, but his small hands tremble as he grips his fork too tightly. Something inside him wants to speak, I can feel it. And in that tremor, I realize silence has its own way of speaking. After dinner, I excuse myself, claiming I need to stretch my legs. My joints ache from sitting too long, and truthfully, I cannot stand another moment under my daughter's gaze. Her eyes are daggers sharp with contempt, and every word from her mouth strips away another layer of the father I once was. I step into the hallway where the lights are dimmer and the smell of polish lingers from the freshly scrubbed floors. My fingers trail along the wallpaper, a floral pattern my wife would have loved, though I know she never set foot in this house. The silence here feels different, heavier, as if it carries secrets within its plaster and paint. That's when I hear it. A whisper, small, hurried. My grandson. "Grandpa." I turn, and there he is, peeking from behind the doorway to his room. His eyes dart nervously toward the dining room, where his parents' voices rise and fall in low conversation. He steps closer, his voice just above a breath. "Don't tell them I said this, but there's something in Mom's drawer." My heart jolts. "What do you mean?" I whisper back, crouching slightly so my voice doesn't carry. He shakes his head, his face pale. "In her study, bottom drawer. She keeps it locked. She says it's grown-up stuff, but I saw her once. She looked scared, not mad, like she didn't want anyone to know." I stare at him, trying to read the truth in his trembling words. Children rarely lie with fear in their eyes. His honesty shines through the cracks of his mother's cruelty. "Why are you telling me this?" I ask gently. He glances back toward the dining room, then lowers his voice even further. "Because," she said, "you're nothing." But I don't think that's true. His lips tremble as he adds, "I think you're the only one who can stop her." The words strike me harder than my daughter's venom earlier. For the first time in years, someone in this family, even a child, believes in me. Before I can respond, footsteps approach. My grandson stiffens, then darts back into his room, closing the door with a soft click. My daughter appears at the end of the hall, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing back here?" I straighten, hiding the tremor in my hands. "Just stretching," I reply evenly. She studies me for a moment, suspicion flickering across her face. Then she turns sharply, walking back toward the dining room without another word. But the whisper lingers in my ears, heavy and urgent, the locked drawer. I know then that my wife's letter was right. Something is coming, something that requires protection. And I have just been given my first clue. The next day I returned to my daughter's house under the pretense of dropping off a casserole dish that one of the neighbors had sent. She greets me at the door with a tight smile, one that doesn't reach her eyes. For a moment I almost believe she might slam the door in my face, but instead she lets me in with a sigh, muttering something about being busy. I wait until she is distracted in the kitchen, rattling pans and clattering silverware before I drift down the hallway. My heart beats unevenly, each step echoing with both guilt and determination. I tell myself I'm not snooping. I'm following the thread my grandson handed me in his trembling whisper. Her study smells faintly of ink and perfume, a mixture that unsettles me. Papers are stacked neatly on the desk, but the bottom drawer stands out, thick, locked, the handle gleaming as though polished recently. I kneel beside it, my knees protesting, and tug gently. Of course it doesn't budge. I sit back on my heels, staring at it, the ring on my finger catching the light. My wife's words echo again. Keep this safe. One day it will protect you. I wonder if this is the protection she meant, knowledge hidden behind wood and steel. I glance around. In the corner, a ceramic jar of pens. On the shelf, a stack of books about finance, inheritance law, and property management. Odd choices for someone who once studied literature. My pulse quickens. I try the desk keys left on top, but none fit the drawer. Then a thought strikes me. The ring. Could it be connected? It seems absurd, yet desperation makes fools of us all. I press the band against the lock, nothing. I twist it, aligning the initials inside with the keyhole. Still nothing. Frustrated, I lean back. That's when I notice the faintest scratch marks around the keyhole, as if opened hurriedly before. She is hiding something she visits often enough to wear down the metal. Footsteps echo down the hallway. I scramble to my feet, closing the study door gently behind me. My daughter appears, wiping her hands on a towel. "What are you doing in here?" she asks, suspicion sharp in her tone. I force a smile. "Looking for the bathroom." Got turned around. Her eyes narrow. For a moment I fear she will call me a liar outright. Instead she gestures down the hall and mutters, "Don't wander." Then she leaves, but her eyes linger a second too long. I exhale slowly, my hands shaking. I may not have opened the drawer, but now I am certain inside lies the answer to my wife's warning. And somehow, I know once I see what's in there, nothing will ever be the same again. It takes me 2 more days before I get another chance. My daughter leaves for a late meeting and her husband is out on errands. Only my grandson is home, tucked away in his room with a book. The house feels strangely watchful, but I move quickly. I return to the study, heart hammering. The locked drawer glares at me like a sealed mouth refusing to confess. This time, though, I am prepared. The night before, I searched through my old toolbox and found a thin metal pick I once used to fix a jammed lock in the shed. My hands tremble as I slide it into the drawer's keyhole. Arthritis makes it difficult, but slowly, with patience, I feel the catch give. With a soft click, the drawer yields. Inside are neatly stacked folders tied with ribbon. At first glance, they look like ordinary bills, tax forms, property documents. But deeper down, beneath layers of paper, lies a manila envelope marked confidential. My fingers tingle as I pull it out. The document inside is crisp, recently typed, a contract. My eyes scan the words and my breath stills. It details the sale of our family land, the plot I nearly broke my back to save decades ago, the one I pawned my ring for, the one I thought secure for generations. My daughter's name is written at the bottom, waiting for her signature. The buyer. A development corporation. The price listed is astronomical enough to make anyone's eyes widen, yet the contract is unsigned, as though she hesitated at the last step. I grip the paper tightly, fury rising. That land was not just dirt and stone. It was where my wife planted her first garden, where my daughter played beneath the old oak, where we buried the family dog beneath a simple wooden cross. It was supposed to remain ours. I noticed something odd in the margins. Faint pencil notes quickly erased but still legible. Need Dad's signature. Must find key. Before will reading. The words send a chill racing down my spine. So this is why my wife left me the ring. This is why she warned me. My daughter intends to sell everything, but something in the legal tangle prevents her from doing it without me. I slide the papers back into the drawer, locking it once more, though my hands shake. The secret now burns inside me. As I leave the study, I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror across the hall. For the first time in years, I do not see a frail old man. I see someone holding a weapon not of steel, but of truth. Still, truth can be as dangerous as a blade. And I realize silence may have its own way of speaking, but documents, they scream. I walk home that evening with the contract folded in my coat pocket, every step heavier than the last. The streetlights flicker against the pavement, casting long shadows that feel like memories following me. Betrayal is not new to me. Life has a way of teaching it in small doses, but betrayal from one's own blood, one's own child, is something the body does not know how to carry. As I sit in my chair, the ring pressing into my finger, I cannot help but drift back to the past. To the day the bank threatened to take our family land. My wife's face was pale, yet she tried to smile for my sake. I remember leaving the house in the rain, walking for hours until I reached the pawn shop. The bell above the door jingled sharp and metallic. I slid the ring across the counter, pretending my hands were steady. The pawnbroker looked at me with cold eyes, offering a sum barely enough to cover the hospital bills. I took it anyway, clutching the money as though it were both salvation and condemnation. I came home, drenched, my shoes squelching on the wooden floor. My wife didn't speak. She simply placed her hand over mine, her touch warmer than the coins I carried. That night I swore the land would never leave us. And now, decades later, my daughter tries to undo it all. The echoes of her betrayal ring louder than church bells, louder than her scream at the funeral. They reverberate through every corner of the house, whispering that perhaps she never understood the sacrifices made for her. I glance at the old family photograph again. Her childlike smile, framed by sunlight, now feels like a cruel reminder of innocence lost. What happened to the girl who once ran barefoot across that land chasing butterflies while her mother laughed? The contract burns in my pocket like a live coal. My wife's letter. The ring, the whispered warning from my grandson, all threads weaving into a single undeniable truth. She is preparing to erase everything we built. My chest tightens. Anger surges, but beneath it is grief. Grief for the daughter I thought I knew. Grief for the years that led us here. Grief for the silence that grew between us until it became poison. I pour myself a small glass of whiskey, an old bottle dusty from neglect. My wife never liked me drinking, so I stopped years ago. But tonight the amber liquid feels like armor against despair. The burn in my throat grounds me, though the bitterness lingers long after. As the clock ticks into midnight, I hear the creak of the house settling. Or perhaps it is something else, the weight of betrayal pressing against the walls. I whisper into the empty room, I kept my promise. I saved it, and I won't let her take it. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The night is restless. I toss and turn until finally I can no longer bear the silence pressing against my chest. The contract lies on the table beside me, its words etched into my mind. I cannot sleep knowing my daughter is planning to erase our legacy, to erase me. So I go. The streets are empty, slick with dew. My footsteps echo as I make my way back to her house. By the time I arrive, the lights inside glow faintly like watchful eyes. I hesitate at the gate, gripping the iron bars, my breath unsteady, but anger pushes me forward. I knock, harder than I intend. The door opens and there she is, my daughter, hair loose, face pale from surprise. She scowls when she sees me. What are you doing here? It's the middle of the night. I step inside without waiting for permission. The contract burns in my pocket. We need to talk. I say, my voice firmer than I've heard in years. Her eyes narrow. If this is about the land? It is, I cut in. My hands tremble as I pull out the contract and slap it onto the dining table. The papers spread like a wound reopened. Explain this. For a moment she falters. Her lips part, her face stiffens, but then she laughs sharp, bitter. Sound that doesn't belong to the girl I once knew. You shouldn't have gone through my things. You were going to sell it, I whisper, the words heavy. The land we bled for, the land your mother loved. Her jaw tightens. It's mine now. Mother's gone and you... She points a finger at me, her voice rising. You're nothing but a burden. You think I care about your memories? I need security. I need a future, and that land is the price. I feel my pulse surge in my temples, a dangerous rhythm. A future built on betrayal is no future at all. She smirks coldly. You talk like you still matter, but you don't. Without my signature, without my choices, you're just an old man waiting to disappear. Her words slice through me, sharper even than her scream at the funeral. For a long moment, I cannot speak. The silence between us is thick with venom. Then slowly I reach into my pocket and slide the ring off my finger. The metal feels warm from my skin. I place it on the contract. Her eyes flicker, just for a second, doubt, fear, recognition. You don't understand what that means, do you? I ask softly. Your mother did. That's why she left it to me. That's why she warned me. She clenches her fists. That ring changes nothing. But I see the tremor in her hands, I hear the quiver in her breath, and I know it changes everything. Silence has its own way of speaking. The day of the will reading arrives. The lawyer's office smells of leather and old paper, the kind of place where secrets are preserved in thick files and sealed envelopes. My daughter sits stiffly across from me, her husband at her side. My grandson fidgets nervously between them, too young to understand the gravity of the moment, yet old enough to feel the tension. I hold the ring in my hand, hidden in my lap. The weight of it steadies me like a silent ally waiting for its turn to speak. The lawyer, a gray-haired man with spectacles perched low on his nose, clears his throat and begins. This is the last will and testament of Margaret Ellis. My wife's name fills the room like a ghost. My heart stutters, and for a moment I almost look over my shoulder, expecting her to walk in and scold us for fighting. He reads slowly, his voice measured. The house, the savings, the heirlooms, each item carefully assigned. My daughter leans forward, her expression hungry like a vulture circling prey. Then comes the pause. The lawyer adjusts his glasses, his voice tightening as he continues. And regarding the matter of the family land, I see my daughter's knuckles whiten as she grips the edge of her chair. I leave guardianship of the property in its entirety to my husband, John Ellis. The words hit like thunder. I exhale sharply, clutching the ring tighter. Across the table, my daughter's face drains of color. She opens her mouth as though to protest, but no sound comes out. Her husband shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting between us. The lawyer continues, oblivious to the storm brewing. In the event of John's passing, the land is to remain in trust to be protected for future generations, with specific restrictions preventing its sale without his written consent. The silence afterward is suffocating. My daughter finally finds her voice. That can't be right. She promised me. She cuts herself off, realizing too late what she has admitted. The lawyer looks at her over his spectacles. The will is quite clear. Your mother's instructions were deliberate. Her face twists, pale and furious. She glares at me as though I have orchestrated the betrayal, as though I am the thief rather than the rightful guardian. I don't speak. I simply slide the ring back onto my finger, its metal cool against my skin. I feel my wife's presence in that moment, as though she is standing behind me watching justice unfold. My daughter leans back in her chair, her breath uneven, her hands trembling. For the first time I see fear in her eyes, not of me but of the truth she cannot change. And in that silence I understand this was my wife's plan all along, to protect me, to protect the land, to protect us from the very betrayal that now sits across the table, red-faced and defeated. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The lawyer's words still hang in the air like a verdict. My daughter sits, frozen, her lips parted, her complexion drained of color. Her face turns pale, not from grief but from fury mixed with disbelief. It is the first time I've seen her truly shaken. I study her quietly, the way one might watch a storm gathering on the horizon. Her knuckles are white as she clutches her husband's arm. He whispers something to her, but she shakes him off, eyes burning holes into me. "You must have tricked her," she hisses finally. Her voice cracks, betraying the tremor in her confidence. "Mother wouldn't have left it to you, not after everything." The lawyer clears his throat, shuffling papers. Mrs. Ellis was very precise in her instructions. The will was updated 6 months ago, witnessed and signed properly. There is no ambiguity here. 6 months ago. My wife had been frail but determined during that time. I remember her writing letters late at night, her hand trembling but her eyes steady. She knew what she was doing. She knew what was coming. My daughter slams her palm against the table. The sound echoes through the office, making my grandson flinch. "This isn't fair," she cries. "I'm her daughter. I deserve." The lawyer interrupts calmly. "What you deserve, Miss Ellis, is not for me to decide. What matters is your mother's wishes." Her breathing quickens. Her face remains pale, but 2 spots of crimson bloom on her cheeks. She looks like someone cornered, desperate to claw her way free. I don't move. I don't raise my voice. I simply rest my hand on the table, the ring visible for all to see. The gold glints under the office light, quiet but undeniable. My wife's handwriting had warned me. This moment was the storm she saw on the horizon. My grandson shifts in his chair, his eyes wide, his small hand creeping toward mine beneath the table. His touch is hesitant, but it grounds me. For the first time, I sense he understands more than anyone gives him credit for. My daughter notices the gesture and her face contorts further. "You think this makes you the hero?" she spits. "You think Mother loved you more? She pitied you, Father. Pity. That's all you ever had." The lawyer sighs, closing the folder with a firm snap. That will conclude the reading. His tone is final, unyielding. I rise slowly, my joints protesting. The room feels heavy with her rage, but I walk out with my grandson's hand still in mine. Behind us, I hear her chair scrape violently against the floor, the sound of her fury, unable to undo what has been sealed. Outside, the sun breaks through gray clouds for the first time in days. The light falls on my hand, making the ring shine brighter. For a brief moment, I almost believe my wife is smiling down at me. But I know this battle is far from over. The lawyer's office empties slowly, but the silence between us does not. My daughter storms out first, her heels striking the marble floor like hammers. Her husband trails behind, muttering half-hearted reassurances she ignores. My grandson hesitates, torn, before finally following his mother, his small shoulders hunched beneath the weight of a storm he cannot name. I linger in the hallway, the smell of polished wood and old ink clinging to me. My legs ache, but I stand straight, the will's words still echoing in my mind. Guardianship, trust, protection. My wife had placed the future in my hands even as mine shook with age. But the family, what remains of it, is already splintering. That evening, the phone begins ringing. Cousins, nieces, nephews, voices I haven't heard in years now, brimming with sudden interest. They offer condolences first, but quickly their tones shift. What did the will say? Did Margaret leave anything for the rest of us? Behind their words lurks resentment, the quiet suggestion that I have taken more than my share. I give them nothing. Polite answers, short sentences, yet their suspicions grow heavier with every call. At the grocery store the next morning, I overhear whispers. Neighbors lean against their carts, voices lowered but sharp. Did you hear his wife left everything to him? The daughter's furious. It's going to get ugly. Their words sting, but worse is the look of pity they cast me when they think I'm not watching, as though I am a man stumbling into a war far too big for his frail frame. Back at home, the atmosphere turns oppressive. The phone rings again, this time with my brother's voice. He doesn't waste time with greetings. John, be careful, he warns. I heard your daughter's been asking around, stirring trouble. She wants people on her side. The line crackles with static, but his meaning is clear. She is gathering allies. Blood against blood, a family breaking apart. That night I sit at the table with the ring and the letter before me. The letter's words remain sparse but unrelenting. Keep this safe. One day it will protect you. The protection isn't just against outsiders. It is against my own kin. My wife must have known that betrayal would not stop with a scream at a funeral. It would spread fracture, divide. I look around the house, the photographs on the wall, the worn furniture, the clock that ticks faithfully no matter how broken the people around it become. These walls once held laughter, Sunday dinners, birthday candles blown out with joy. Now they shelter only secrets, anger, and the echoes of arguments not yet spoken. The family has splintered, yes, but splinters cut both ways. Silence has its own way of speaking. It is late afternoon when I finally gather the courage to open the old chest at the foot of my bed. My wife kept it locked for years, claiming it was for memories that mattered. After her passing, I left it untouched, fearing that lifting the lid would unleash grief too raw to bear. But now, with the will tearing the family apart, I feel her urging me on. Inside, beneath blankets and faded letters, I find an album. The leather cover is cracked, the spine weak from decades of use. I flip through the pages slowly. There are photographs of our wedding, my wife in her lace veil, me in a suit far too big. Pictures of our daughter as a child, her smile wide, her hair tied in ribbons, her mother adored. Each image feels like a knife and a bomb at the same time. Then, near the back, I see a photograph slipped loosely between pages, not glued like the others. It shows my wife and me standing before the family land holding a document. She is smiling, but her eyes, sharp, almost defiant, are fixed on the camera. And there, faint but clear, is a signature at the bottom corner of the document she holds up. My name, her name, witnessed and stamped. I lean closer, my pulse quickening. It is proof that decades ago we signed an agreement securing the land as joint property protected against any sale without my consent. Proof my daughter could not erase no matter how many contracts she tried to draft in secret. I run my thumb over the glossy surface. A memory surfaces that day. I'd forgotten it until now. We had gone to the county office, the clerk a surly man who smelled of pipe smoke. He signed as witness, tapping his pen against the ink pad while my wife whispered, "One day this will save us." Her voice returns now like an echo across time. Save us, she knew. The photograph trembles in my hands as I realize its power. It is not just a picture, it is evidence. Evidence my daughter never knew existed, evidence hidden in plain sight among memories. she thought too sentimental to matter. I sit back, my breath unsteady. The air in the room feels charged, as though the walls themselves lean closer to listen. I slip the photograph into an envelope and place it alongside the ring and my wife's letter. 3 items each. Ordinary in its own way, yet together they form a shield stronger than any weapon. I hear a knock at the front door. Sharp, urgent. My heart stutters. Through the curtain, I glimpse my daughter's car parked outside, her husband's silhouette behind the wheel. She is here. I tuck the envelope quickly into my jacket pocket before opening the door. Her eyes are cold, her smile thin. "We need to talk," she says. The photograph burns against my chest like fire, but I soon realize that wasn't the worst of it. She enters without waiting for me to invite her in. Her heels strike the wooden floor like gavel blows. Her husband follows quieter, his shoulders hunched as though already bracing for what is to come. My grandson isn't with them. Perhaps that is mercy, or perhaps she doesn't want him to witness what's about to unfold. We sit in the living room, though no one is comfortable. She perches on the edge of the sofa, her eyes sharp, scanning the room as though every object might hide another secret. Her husband sits beside her, but farther back, his gaze lowered to his hands. "I know you went through my things," she begins, her tone as cold as the night I confronted her. "You had no right." I meet her glare calmly. "And you had no right to plan the sale of what wasn't yours to sell." Her lips curl, but before she can fire back, her husband clears his throat. His voice comes out low, hesitant. Maybe we should just tell him." She whirls toward him, fury flashing in her eyes. "Don't you dare." But the dam in him has already cracked. He leans forward, his hands twisting together. "I can't keep lying," he mutters. "It's tearing me apart." I watch him carefully, the photograph heavy in my pocket. "What truth?" I ask, my voice steady, though my pulse is not. He swallows hard. "I knew about the will. Months before Margaret passed, your wife came to me." His eyes flicker up guilty before darting away again. "She told me she didn't trust her own daughter with the land. She said it had to stay in your hands. She begged me to keep it quiet until after." He trails off, his words heavy with shame. My daughter's face twists. "You liar. You're making this up to humiliate me." But I can see it in his trembling hands and the sweat at his brow. He is not lying. The truth spills out of him like water from a broken pipe. "She made me promise," he continues. "She said if your daughter tried anything, I was to tell you. But I couldn't. His voice cracks. "She threatened to leave me if I did." The room falls into a silence so thick it feels alive. My daughter's fury burns like wildfire, but her husband's confession stands unshaken in the ashes. I lean back slowly, the ring cool against my skin, the photograph a solid weight at my chest. My wife's plan becomes clearer with every revelation. She had known the betrayal would come. She had prepared me, left me weapons, and even tried to plant a reluctant ally in my path. My daughter rises suddenly, her voice shrill. "You've always been weak," she spits at her husband. "And you," she turns to me, eyes blazing, "you think this makes you stronger? You think you've won?" Her words hang in the air, venomous, but behind them I see cracks forming. Her face pales again, her anger fighting against fear. Silence has its own way of speaking. That night, long after my daughter and her husband leave in a storm of slammed doors and bitter silence, I sit alone at the kitchen table. The house is heavy with shadows. Before me, the 3 objects lie like pieces of a puzzle: the letter, the photograph, and the ring. I pick up the ring again, turning it slowly in the light. Its gold is worn, its edges dulled by decades of use, but something about it has always felt unfinished, as though it carried more than memory. My wife's words return sharp and insistent. "Keep this safe. One day it will protect you." I slide the ring on and off my finger, restless. Then I notice it, a faint ridge along the inner band, almost invisible unless the light hits at a certain angle. My pulse quickens. I press at it carefully with my fingernail. To my shock, a tiny compartment shifts open, revealing something tucked within. A key. Small, delicate, but real. It glints under the light, hidden all these years. My hands tremble as I hold it up. My wife had hidden this inside the ring, close to me, knowing I would one day need it. But a key to what? I search the study of my mind like I once searched drawers in the house. Safe deposit boxes, old trunks, locked cabinets. My memory sharpens on a detail from years ago, the time she came back from the bank clutching a sealed envelope, her face pale but determined. She had whispered then, almost to herself, "If anything ever happens, it will be waiting." A safe deposit box. She must have kept it at the bank all these years, never telling me, waiting until the moment was right. The thought fills me with both dread and relief. Whatever lies inside must be important enough to hide with such care. Proof perhaps of ownership, or something even larger, something my daughter has no idea exists. The house creaks in the silence as if listening. I slide the key back into the ring's hidden chamber, snapping it shut. The band feels heavier now, no longer just a symbol of sacrifice, but a weapon, a shield, a secret passed from her hand to mine. I look at the clock. The bank will open in the morning. I will go. But tonight I sit with the ring tight around my finger, the photograph beside it, the letter folded like a heartbeat in my pocket. For the first time in weeks, I feel not powerless but armed. My wife is still guiding me even from the grave. I whisper into the quiet, "You saw this coming, didn't you?" And in the stillness, I swear I hear her voice, faint and steady, yes. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. Morning breaks gray and damp, a drizzle clinging to the windows as though the sky itself mourns. I tuck the ring tightly onto my finger, the secret key pressing faintly against my skin, and make my way to the bank. The streets are quiet, but my mind is loud with questions. The bank has stood for generations, its stone walls solid, its brass handles polished by countless hands. Inside, the air smells faintly of ink and old leather, the scent of money and secrets long stored. I approach the counter, my voice steady though my heart pounds. My wife had a safe deposit box here, I tell the clerk, a young man with hair too neat for his age. He asks for documents. I hand him the will, the letter, and finally the ring. When I twist the band open to reveal the key, his eyebrows rise in recognition. "Ah," he murmurs, "box 217. He escorts me down a long corridor lined with locked drawers. The sound of our footsteps echoes each step a drumbeat. At the far end, he stops before a small metal door. My hands shake as I fit the tiny key into the lock. With a click, the door opens. Inside lies a plain tin box unmarked. I lift it carefully, my breath shallow. The clerk retreats, leaving me alone in the private room. My palms sweat as I open the lid. The first thing I see is another envelope sealed, my wife's handwriting once again across the front. "For John, when the time is right." My throat tightens. I open it slowly, the paper trembling. Inside, her words spill out. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and the storm I feared has arrived. John. Our daughter is not who she once was. I saw the greed grow in her eyes and I could not stop it. But I could protect you and the land and the truth. In this box you will find what she must never see." Beneath the letter lies a stack of documents. Legal deeds notarized and stamped, proving beyond any dispute that the family land was secured in my name alone years ago. Attached to them are receipts of payments, evidence of sacrifices made, pawning debts, loans, all tied back to me. It is an irrefutable chain of proof preserved carefully, waiting for this very day. But there is more. At the bottom, wrapped in cloth, lies a smaller object, a cassette tape, the kind we used decades ago when voices were captured on magnetic reels instead of digital files, written across it in bold strokes for the lawyer's ears. My pulse surges, my wife's voice, preserved, waiting. I hold it gently, almost afraid it might crumble from age. I picture her sitting at the kitchen table recorder before her, pouring out the truth she feared would be buried. Tears sting my eyes. She had known. She had prepared everything, not for herself, but for me, for us, for the boy who will inherit the soil beneath his feet. I close the box, clutching it to my chest. The drizzle outside feels lighter now, almost cleansing. But as I leave the bank, a thought grips me cold. If I have these documents and this tape and my daughter learns I possess them, she will stop at nothing. And that was only the beginning. I sit at the kitchen table once again, the tin box open before me. The rain has not stopped all day. It patters against the windows like a constant reminder that storms rarely end quickly. My wife's second letter rests in my hands, her handwriting curling across the page in lines both fragile and strong. I read her words again and again. Our daughter is not who she once was. I saw the greed grow in her eyes and I could not stop it. But I could protect you and the land and the truth. She must have known long before I did. Perhaps she recognized signs I ignored, the way our daughter pressed too hard about inheritance, the questions she asked about the land, the bitterness she never fully voiced until it was too late. My wife, always more observant than me, had watched the roots of betrayal grow quietly in the soil of our home. The rest of the letter chills me. "You will face not only her anger, John, but also her hunger. She will not stop. If you hesitate, she will destroy everything. Keep the documents safe, and if needed, play the tape. My voice will carry the truth when yours cannot." My hand shakes as I fold the paper. I imagine her sitting here years ago, writing by lamplight, knowing she was leaving behind not just memories but weapons. She had fought for me even after death. The cassette lies on the table, its plastic case dull but unbroken. I stare at it, torn between dread and comfort. To hear her voice again would pierce me open, but it might also be the only shield I have left. I place it carefully beside the ring and the photograph. 3 ordinary things, yet each infused with extraordinary weight: a band of gold, a slip of paper, a faded image now joined by her voice sealed in magnetic tape. They are like soldiers at my side, waiting for the battle she knew would come. My grandson's face flashes in my mind. His whisper in the hallway, his trembling hand reaching for mine at the lawyer's office. He is too young to bear this, yet somehow he already knows the truth. His mother's path is dangerous. I wonder if my wife foresaw his role too. Perhaps he is the final reason she worked so hard to protect all of this, not for me, but for him. The phone rings suddenly, startling me. The sound cuts through the rain. I answer, and my daughter's voice floods the line, sharp, impatient. "We need to talk," she says. "Tomorrow. Don't make me come looking for you." Her tone is not a request, it is a warning. I hang up slowly, staring at the objects before me. The letter, the ring, the photograph, the tape. Each one now feels less like protection and more like a countdown. My wife warned me of the storm. It is here, and I stand at its center. Silence has its own way of speaking. The next evening I arrive at my daughter's house. The rain has stopped, but the air is heavy, swollen with the promise of more storms. She opens the door before I can knock twice. Her eyes sharp, her jaw set. Behind her, the living room is lit too brightly, as if she wanted every shadow driven out. "Sit," she orders, motioning toward the sofa. I comply, though. My legs ache from the weight of everything I carry. Not just the walk, but the tin box, the envelope, the tape, the photograph tucked close to my chest. Her husband stands near the window, shifting nervously, while my grandson hides at the edge of the hall, peeking with wide eyes. My daughter notices him and snaps, "Go to your room." He hesitates, then obeys his small footsteps, fading upstairs. When she finally speaks, her words slice like glass. "I know you went to the bank." My throat tightens, but I don't deny it. "Your mother wanted me to." Her lip curls. "You think she loved you more?" "No, she pitied you. She gave you scraps to keep you quiet. But the land should be mine. I built my life waiting for it. And now you want to take it away." I set the tin box gently on the table between us. The sound of metal against wood is louder than thunder. "This isn't about me taking anything. It's about your mother protecting what mattered. She knew. She saw what you would become." Her eyes flare, and for a moment she looks less like my daughter and more like a stranger wearing her skin. "Give it to me," she says, voice low, dangerous. I shake my head. "No." The silence stretches. My son-in-law clears his throat, but she whirls on him. "Don't you dare say a word." Then she leans closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "If you don't hand it over, I'll make sure you regret it. You're weak, old, and alone. Do you really think you can fight me?" My hand trembles slightly as I lift the ring, twisting it to reveal the hidden key. Her eyes widen at the sight, shock flickering across her face. "Your mother left me this," I say. "She trusted me with it, not you. That alone should tell you everything." She lunges forward suddenly, her hand striking the tin box. Papers scatter, the photograph slips to the floor. But before she can grab them, I snatch the cassette tape and hold it high. "This," I say firmly, my voice louder than hers, for the first time, is her voice. Recorded, sealed, proof of her will and her warning. "Do you really want me to play it right here, right now?" For the first time, she falters. Her hand trembles in midair, her face, pale lips pressed tight. Fear creeps into her expression, not of me, but of the truth she cannot bury. Her husband lowers his head, muttering, maybe it's time to stop." She glares at him, then at me. Fury and fear collide in her eyes, leaving her frozen. The room is thick with silence. The only sound is the faint ticking of the clock on the mantel. I realize then this is no longer a daughter speaking to her father. This is a rival demanding spoils. Blood or not, she has chosen her side, and I have chosen mine. But I soon realize that wasn't the worst of it. Her eyes burn into me, wild and unsteady, as if the ground beneath her has suddenly crumbled. For a long moment, neither of us moves. Then, with a sharp cry, my daughter seizes the tin box again, her nails digging into the metal as though she could tear it apart with her bare hands. "Stop!" her husband shouts, trying to pull her back. She shoves him away with such force that he stumbles into the wall, framed photographs clattering to the floor. My grandson's voice drifts faintly from upstairs, frightened, calling out for his mother, but she ignores it, consumed by her rage. "This is mine," she screams, her voice raw. "I waited my whole life for this, and you want to steal it from me. You're nothing. Father, nothing." Her words hit harder than any blow, yet I stay rooted. Slowly, I hold up the cassette, the plastic gleaming under the lamp. If you take one more step, I'll play it, I warn. You'll hear her voice, and so will everyone else. She freezes, her chest heaving. The fury drains from her face, replaced by something else, terror. Her lips tremble, her eyes darting as though searching for escape. Then it happens. Her knees buckle. The box slips from her hands, papers scattering across the rug like fallen leaves. She clutches her chest, gasping for air. For a second, I think it's another performance, a cruel tactic, but the sound of her strangled breath tells me otherwise. Anna, her husband, cries, rushing to her side. He fumbles for his phone, hands shaking as he dials. My grandson appears at the top of the stairs, his face pale, tears streaking his cheeks. I remain seated, my body rigid, the ring cutting into my skin as I grip the armrest. Watching my own daughter collapse before me is like watching a building burn that I once helped build brick by brick. My instinct is to rise, to help her, to forget everything and simply be her father again. But the memory of her words, "You're nothing to me," chains me in place. The ambulance arrives quickly. Paramedics swarm the room, lifting her onto a stretcher, strapping her down as she wheezes and claws at the air. Her husband follows, frantic, shouting details about her condition. My grandson lingers, staring at me with wide, pleading eyes before he too is swept along. And then I am alone. The house echoes with silence, broken only by the faint creak of the front door swinging shut. The tin box lies on the floor, its contents spilled, the photograph face up among the papers. My wife's smile beams at me from the past, steady and knowing. I lean back slowly, my heart heavy. Betrayal, rage, collapse, all of it unfolding in a single night. But deep down, I know this was not an ending. It was a new fracture, one that would cut even deeper. Silence has its own way of speaking. 2 days later, I sit once again in the lawyer's office. The air smells of dust and old paper, the blinds half drawn against a gray sky. Outside, the rain has returned, steady and unrelenting, as though the heavens themselves refuse to let this chapter dry. The lawyer adjusts his glasses, scanning the new documents I've brought: the photograph, the notarized deeds, my wife's letter, even the cassette tape sealed in its case. He takes his time, his silence deliberate. Every so often he looks up at me with a kind of measured pity, the look of a man who has seen too many families shatter over lines on paper. Finally he speaks. His voice is low, but each word carries the weight of finality. "John, there is no ambiguity. Your wife secured everything beyond question. The land, the property, even the stipulation in the will, it all holds. Your daughter cannot touch it without your consent, and if she tries, these documents will stand in court like walls of stone." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. My fingers tighten around the ring. "So it's finished," I say, though my tone wavers between relief and exhaustion. But the lawyer shakes his head. "No. Legally, yes. Emotionally, no. Families don't obey paper, John. They obey wounds, and wounds don't heal with signatures." The truth of his words strikes me harder than any legal clause. I think of my daughter lying in a hospital bed after her collapse, her eyes burning with betrayal even as her body gave way. I think of my grandson's terrified face, caught between loyalty to his mother and the truth she tried to bury. The lawyer continues, softer now. "Your wife saw this coming. She prepared everything to shield you, but she could not shield the love between you and your daughter. That is something only you can decide." I sit in silence, staring at the cassette tape. It feels like a heartbeat, in its case my wife's voice waiting, ready to speak for me if I cannot. The lawyer leans forward. "One more thing. If she pushes further, if this goes to court, you will win. But understand, John, in winning you may lose her forever." I close my eyes, the weight of his words pressing down. Lose her forever. A daughter who has already told me I am nothing, who has already tried to strip away everything I fought for, and yet the thought of losing her completely cuts deeper than any betrayal. When I open my eyes, the lawyer is still watching me, patient but firm. So he asks, "What do you want me to do with all of this?" I rest my hand on the box, on the photograph, on the tape. My wife left me the tools to protect what mattered, but she also left me a choice. I whisper, almost to myself, I want the truth to stand. But I don't want the last words between us to be hate. The lawyer nods slowly, as though he expected nothing less. He gathers the papers with steady hands. Then we hold them. We wait. And when the time comes, we'll decide together. The rain outside beats harder against the glass. Each drop sounds like a ticking clock counting down to a reckoning not yet finished. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The days after the confrontation unfold in a heavy hush. My daughter does not call. Her husband does not visit. Even my grandson's voice, once bright with hesitant warmth, is absent. The silence grows so thick in the house it feels like a second shadow following me from room to room. I hear news from others instead. A neighbor mentions seeing her car outside the hospital late at night. My brother tells me she is recovering, though her temper remains unchanged. She blames you for everything he says over the phone. His tone carries no accusation, only weariness. I don't know if she'll ever forgive you. I thank him quietly, but after the call ends, I sit in the stillness staring at the ring. Forgiveness, such a small word for such an impossible task. The tin box rests unopened on the table. I have locked away the deeds, the photograph, the letter, and the cassette in a safer place, but their weight lingers. They have become less like objects and more like guardians, silent and watchful. At night, the silence deepens. I sit in my chair by the window, listening to the creak of the old house. My wife used to fill this space with laughter, humming the clatter of dishes in the kitchen. Now even the ticking clock feels too loud. Yet in the silence, memories rise. I see my daughter as a little girl running barefoot through the grass, shouting for me to chase her. I see her asleep on the sofa, a blanket slipping from her shoulders as her mother tucked it back into place. Those moments feel more real than the bitter woman who screamed at me in the church. And I wonder, is she still in there somewhere, or has greed consumed her completely? One evening, I receive a letter in the mail. The handwriting is not hers, but my grandson's, uneven and childish. Grandpa, I miss you. Mom says I can't see you now, but I wanted to write. Don't tell her. Tears blur my vision. I clutch the paper as though it were oxygen. Even in the midst of betrayal, there is still a fragile thread that binds us, one small voice refusing to let go. The silence in the house shifts then. It no longer feels like punishment. It feels like waiting. Waiting for her next move, waiting for the storm to break again, waiting for the moment I must choose whether to fight with the weapons my wife left me, or to reach out with the hand of a father who cannot stop loving his child no matter how deeply she wounds him. Silence has its own way of speaking. The weeks slip by, marked less by dates on a calendar and more by the steady rhythm of silence. My daughter remains distant, unreachable, her anger festering in places I cannot see. Her husband keeps away too, though I sometimes wonder if shame weighs heavier on him than loyalty. But my grandson writes again. Small notes folded neatly slipped into my mailbox by hands that must tremble with both courage and fear. Grandpa, I drew this for you. A sketch of a house with smoke curling from its chimney. Grandpa, I love you. Short, simple words that pierce deeper than any wound his mother inflicted. I keep those notes tucked inside the tin box alongside the photograph, the ring, the letter, and the cassette. They belong together, a record of betrayal, yes, but also of love, protection, and the fragile hope of reconciliation. At night, I sit by the window and let my thoughts drift. The land remains safe, the legacy intact, but the family is fractured. And perhaps that is the cruelest truth of all. Paper can guard property, but it cannot bind hearts. I think of my wife often. I picture her bent over the kitchen table, her hand steady as she wrote those final warnings. She knew the storm would come, yet she believed I could weather it. She trusted me even when I did not trust myself. I whisper into the empty room, as if she might still hear. I kept it safe. Just as you asked, but I don't know if I kept us safe. The wind rattles the window pane in reply, carrying with it the faint chime of the porch bell she once hung there. She always said bells drove away evil spirits. Tonight, I let myself believe her. Tomorrow, perhaps my daughter will call. Perhaps she won't. Perhaps years will pass before forgiveness dares to show its face. But I know this. I will not let her final words, "You're nothing to me," be the last ones between us. Because I am her father. And no matter how deep the betrayal, no matter how sharp the wound, love is the one inheritance that cannot be signed away. I place the ring back onto my finger, close the box, and turn off the light. The house settles into quiet, not heavy this time, but gentle. Thank you, I whisper to the darkness, to my wife, to the child who still writes me secret notes, for staying with me through the storm. And with that, I let the silence hold me. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it touched you, please subscribe and continue with the next story in the playlist.